Hello everyone, this is Ragani Yantri and let's discuss about question and answers from the chapter Organisms and Population. So the incurious thing in this chapter is about the diversity in the living world. So it is better understood by looking at the biological organization. The biological organization means population. So population is organisms interact in it and exhibit various behaviors. So they exhibit within the habitat and with each other in a group. So different populations of organisms are found in different habitats which favor their growth and reproduction. So for this growth and reproduction, various biotic and abiotic factors play an important role. And these are all the points which are discussed in this chapter. So coming to the marks weightage, the whole unit of ecology will carry a 10 mark in board examination and NEET examination. About 10 questions are expected from ecology, which is around 16% of the total questions. Now let's come to the topics to be covered. So we have two topics, organisms and environment and populations under this chapter subchapter. Under organisms and its environment, we have major abiotic factors and response to abiotic factors and adaptations. Under populations, we have population attributes, growth, life history variation and population interactions. Now let's get into the first question. So here the question states, what are the major abiotic factors? So here you have to list the major abiotic factors and what are the influence on altering the habitat. That is, what does the abiotic factor play a role in the organisms living in the habitat? So what is a habitat? Habitat is a region which is suitable for an organism to live. So what are the major abiotic factors that play a role that help the organisms to live in a habitat? That's what we are going to see. The first point here is the temperature. So here we have temperature. So temperature we have like there are varying temperatures in across the globe, and if we have the earth and we have the equator over here, I mean in the center, if this is the equator, the temperature decreases as we move up to the pole. Okay, the temperature decreases as we move up or down to the poles, and the temperature decreases from plains to mountain tops. So you can see the difference in land, and if you go to any hill stations or mountain regions, the temperature drops over here. So there are two types of organisms, euthermal and stenothermal. Euthermal are organisms that can tolerate and thrive in wide range of temperatures. So they can tolerate like a wide range of temperatures, they can sustain in wide range of temperatures. And stenothermal, they are organisms that can tolerate only narrow range of temperatures. So they are able to tolerate only a particular temperature, and they will these organisms will tend to like being affected when the temperature change. So we have like how does this have affect the habitat? So we have like hilly stations or in polar regions, you have animals with higher fur. So these can tolerate higher temperatures. So they can't be present in the equator region or the planar region. Okay, that's how the temperature affects the habitat. Now water. So the next thing is water. So the productivity and distribution of plants is dependent on water. So plants, there will be like the water pH and chemical composition, salinity is dependent for plants. And for aquatic organisms also, they have chemical composition, pH, or and temperature of the water also plays an important role. And here also we have urihalline and stenohaline. It's the same as urithermal, stenothermal. Urihalline is organisms that are able to thrive in a large, wide range of water habitats, that is wide range of, maybe the wide range of pH, wide range of chemical composition. And stenohaline is the organisms that able to thrive only in narrow range of the parameters of the water condition. Next is the light. So light, as you know, is a major component for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is done by autotrophs. So many species of small plants that grows in forests. Forest will have large trees, and under the large trees you have large trees over here. So under the large trees there is usually small shrubs. So these shrubs will not get enough sunlight. So they are adapted to photosynthesis under low light conditions. So that's how light plays a role. Light also plays a role in flowering. You have seen flowers that bloom in evening, flowers that bloom in morning. So the flowering process is mainly dependent on the light as a factor. And foraging by animals. Some animals go and search for food at night, example bats. Some animals go and search for food in the daylight. So light plays an important role in all these factors. Next is the soil. So we have come to soil. So we have soil composition, grain size, and aggregation, which will determine the water holding capacity. So this is important for plants to grow. So certain plants grow on like mangroves, they grow on where the soil, water content in the soil is too high. And certain desert plants grow on soils that water content is too low. So these characteristics determine the types of plants, and the types of plants will in turn determine the animals that to be present around them. So the soil will determine the type of plants. The type of plants will determine the type of animals that it is supporting. So another characteristics of soil is pH, mineral composition, and topography. So these determine the habitat of the region. Next question we have, what are conformers and what process do they exhibit, and how this process becomes a response to abiotic factors. So here we have 3 questions. One is you have to define what are conformers and what process do they exhibit. That is what type of behavior and how this process becomes a response to abiotic factors. And you'll see the answer. So what are conformers? Conformers are plants and animals that do not regulate their internal environment, that is internal temperature, and they are called conformers. So for example, let's take us humans. Humans, we regulate our body temperature. So we regulate our body temperature is mainly 37 degrees Celsius, and we maintain it either in the winter season or summer season. So but certain plants and animals, or major of the plants and animals, they do not regulate. That is, their body temperature changes with change in environmental temperature. So as we see, the first part of the question is what is conformers, and the second part, what process do they exhibit. What process do they exhibit? They change your body temperature with the change in environmental temperature. Okay, and the third question, how this process becomes a response to abiotic factors. That is, like abiotic factors. We saw in the previous slide, we have water, temperature, etc. So here temperature is a major role. Abiotic is the temperature, and this temperature plays a major role in the conformers. So when temperature changes, the body temperature changes. So why it is done? So because thermoregulation is seen in our as humans. So that is it maintains a constant temperature, that is thermoregulation. So thermoregulation is energetically expensive. So energetically expensive means they have to spend energy for this. Us as a humans, we are larger organisms, and spending of energy is not that much a problem to us. And smaller organisms such as hummingbirds, etc., their energy spent has to be calculated. So they consider thermoregulation as an expensive process. So they do not regulate their internal environment. So what they do if their conditions are, if the environmental conditions are too extreme, it is too cold or too hot, what they do is they migrate. Okay, that's the three parts of the answer. First, define conformers, and the next, what process do they exhibit is they change their body temperature, and how this process becomes a response to abiotic factors is that they migrate. So they migrate because thermoregulation is energetically expensive for these organisms. So these are the answers that you have, points that you have to mention for this question. What is adaptation is the next question, and give 3 examples with explanation. So first you have to write the definition of adaptation. So adaptation is any attribute of the organism, might be morphological, physiological or behavioral, that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in this habitat. So you have to write this point first. So adaptation, that is morphological adaptation, is something that it is with the physical appearance. That is sometimes you see that polar bears will have high furry coat. This is morphological appearance. Physiological appearance is within the body. That is physiological adaptation. And behavioral is something you exhibit, the behavior. That is, some animals will undergo hibernation. Some animals like they hunt only in the night, such as bats. That is behavioral adaptation. So these adaptations should enable the organism to survive and reproduce in this habitat. So once an animal gets into the habitat, it adapts, or an animal will go to a habitat which suits its needs. Okay, so they will adapt it to survive and reproduce. The next part of the question is give 3 examples. So we have 3 examples. There are a lot more also you can indicate. The first example is kangaroo. Kangaroo lives in hot climates, and they will, like, what adaptation they get is they get water from oxidation of fats. So by oxidation of fats, the byproduct is water. So they are able to utilize this water for their water needs. Okay, and it also concentrates urine for minimal water loss. That's the adaptation kangaroo has done. Okay, next is the desert plants. Desert plants have thick cuticle. So thick cuticle is something, a waxy layer. So we have normal plant, I'm taking a normal leaf, and this is like the outer layer, right? So they will have a thick waxy layer coating called as cuticle. So this will minimize the water loss or transpiration, as we have the correct term is transpiration. So They have thick cuticle. So thick cuticle means less transpiration, and they have a specialized photosynthetic pathway called as CAM photosynthetic pathway, which is present only in desert plants. In this, they will open their stomata, leaf stomata only during the night time, so that their their transpiration rate or water loss rate is reduced. So this is the adaptation by desert plants. And we have another adaptation, mammals in colder climates. So they have shorter ears and limbs, so this will minimize heat loss. So another point is fox. We have fox in deserts. So you have fox in deserts, and you have fox in in colder regions. So foxes in deserts will have larger ears. So they have larger ears so that the heat will get lost. Okay. So foxes in deserts will have larger ears, whereas mammals in colder climates will have shorter ears. That's the adaptations. You can list any adaptations, any 3 adaptations that you remember. The next question is, what is age pyramid? Explain this concept using graphical representation of human population. That is, what is the age pyramid of human population, and mention the 3 distinct categories. So these are the 3 parts of the question. Okay, so let's go to the definition of age pyramid. So a population at any given time is composed of individuals of different ages. So you have a population. So consider human population. You have kids. Okay, you have kids, you have adults, you have old age peoples. Okay, in a population, that is, so it is given as different ages. So individuals of different ages. So if the age distribution is plotted for the population, the resulting structure is called age pyramid. So if you plot it in a graph like this, so this is called as age pyramid. So we have 3 types. So pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. So pre-reproductive state which comes to kids, okay, or small childrens, and if you take animals or something, they are puppies and small animals. And reproductive stages in which they have reached the reproductive phase. And post-reproductive stages is like old age, the population in which old age individuals are present. So let's see over here. So this is the graph. Okay, the second part. So this is the graph. We have expanding, stable, and declining. Let's see what is this. Expanding. So expanding, we have pre-reproductive. That is, the small kids are higher in number. And then we have reproductive stages next, and then post-reproductive stages lesser. So this is like expanding. Expanding means in a time, or as the time passes, the pre-reproductive stages individuals will enter the reproductive phase, right? So that's how you say if the reproductive phase is attained, you will get even more individuals. That's why they are saying it as expanding. So it is like the population will expand in the future. And the stable. In the stable, what you see is pre-reproductive and reproductive phases are almost equal. So this is like stable population, and you see post-reproductive is lesser always. So this is a stable population. And declining population. Declining population, you have pre-reproductive phase as the smallest number of individuals, and reproductive phase has also decreased when compared to these both. And post-reproductive phase we have here Okay, so this is the declining phase of a population. So this is how you estimate whether population is expanding, stable or declining. So the three phases are growing or expanding, stable or declining. These are all the points that you have to write for this question. The next, you have to differentiate between exponential growth and logistic growth. Give the equation that describes exponential growth. So here we have to explain what is exponential growth. So exponential growth is when resources here food and space. So resources available, the population is going to grow uncontrollably. Okay, so ideally when resources are unlimited, each species has the ability to release its fully innate potential to grow in number. That is, the species will grow exponentially. That is, see this curve. So this is exponential. That is, it is J-shaped curve is exponential growth. So this is like exponential growth. Definition. You have to write this definition, and the equation for exponential growth is Nt is equal to N0 into e power RT. So where Nt is the population density after time t, N0 is the initial population density. So you take 2 years, so 2020, and then now it's 2023. So the population size here is N0. Okay, and population size here is Nt. So you have to calculate this Nt. Okay, Nt, where t is 3 years. So 3 is t is equal to 3 years here. Okay, so the formula is Nt. So you have to find Nt is equal to N0 into E. E is a constant, the base of natural algorithms it's called as, which is the number 2.7. You have to write it here, and the whole to the power r into t. So we have t is equal to 3. So what is r? R is equal to birth rate. So birth rate of the population minus death rate of the population. You will get R. Okay. So you have to calculate birth rate minus death rate. You will get the R, and you have to substitute here, and then you will get the population size at time t. Okay. So this is for exponential growth. Now let's see for logistic growth. So logistic growth says that in the course of time, so you have plenty of nutrients at this beginning. Okay, so as you complete, as you utilize the nutrients deplete. So at a point it will go into, there will be no nutrients. So there will be no nutrients present in the habitat. So what happens is that the curve declines a bit. That is, in nature, a given habitat has enough sources to support a maximum possible number. So beyond which no further growth is possible. So we have exponential growth, it's reaching height. Okay, it is growing on. And whereas logistic growth, it is becomes stationary at a point, because there is a habitat will accommodate only 10 people. So say for example, accommodate only 10 people, only 10 people can be in this habitat. Okay, so more than 10 people it can't accommodate. So first, when the population starts at 1, and it grows over here, and when it reaches 10, it becomes stationary. Okay, this is like logistic growth, and you have to write the definition. So there are 3 points: exponential growth, logistic growth definition, and the equation for exponential growth. Now let's see the next question. Observe the population growth curves given below and answer the following questions. Okay, you have to observe this curve. So seen this before in the last slide. So you have to mention what is A and what is B. And logistic growth curve is considered realistic. You have to explain why. And what is Verhulst-Forel logistic growth of population, and you have to give the equation. So these are the 3 questions asked, and let's see. So we have this we saw earlier. Okay, let me go to previous slide. So here we see the graph. This graph goes like uncontrollably. It's increasing. So the line is increasing. So what is this? A is exponential growth. And let's see B. So for B, it's touching a stable point. So it goes here. So this is like logistic growth. So B is logistic growth, A is exponential growth. And I have to say about K. So K is the population capacity. So population capacity is defined as the capacity in which a population can grow in an habitat. So as I said, this habitat has 10 people, has this maximum number of people that the habitat can hold is 10, means the K of this population is 10. Okay, that is the maximum number of population individuals population can attain in a particular habitat is called the population capacity, that is K. Okay, so as I said before, A is exponential growth, B is logistic growth, and you have to say why logistic growth is realistic. So logistic growth is realistic. So we saw that the graph, it goes like this, right? So here the logistic growth states that that is a limiting resource. So the resource is limit. So exponential growth states that the resource is unlimited. So it's not possible for an habitat to have unlimited resources. The resources will deplete, it will increase, or it is limited. Okay, so that's why logistic growth is realistic, that is, it is accepted. Okay, so since due to the limiting resource, the fittest would survive and reproduce. So this is logistic growth. So fittest will survive and reproduce. So for the logistic growth, we have an equation is called Verhulst-Forel logistic growth of population. So in which a population growing in a habitat with limited resources, so initially a lag phase followed by phases of acceleration and deceleration, and finally a asymptote when the population density reaches the carrying capacity. So it is this carrying capacity is the K. Okay, this is the K. So as we will go to the graph again. So we saw here, according to Verhulst-Forel logistic growth, the logistic growth has a lag phase. So this is the lag phase. Okay, lag phase means as we saw earlier, the organism in the habitat has to adapt. So until the adaptation, it will go into lag phase. That is, it will increase, the population size increases very slowly, and then an exponential phase. Here the growth spurts out, that is, the organisms were adapted and they increase in population size, and then a stable point over here when it reaches the K. So you see here, when they reach the K, wait a minute, when they reach the K, it stops. So the capacity of the population is K over here, and when it reaches the K, it stops. So that's what this Verhoeven's poor logistic growth of population states. Okay, now the equation. So the equation is we have to find the change in population size with respect to time. This is denoted by dn by dt. So this is change in population size with respect to time, which is equal to Rn into k minus n divided by k. K is the carrying capacity. R is, as I said before, it is intrinsic rate of natural increase or birth rate minus death rate. So we saw B minus D. So this is R. Okay, B minus D is R. K is the carrying capacity. So once you put the equation, you will be able to see the change in population size with the time t. So that is as before example. So change in population size from 2020 to 2023. That is in 3 years. How was the population size increased or decreased? That you can measure using this equation. Okay, next is differentiate between competition and mutualism. You have to draw a table, mutualism and competition. Okay. So for mutualism, so both species interacting will benefit. Okay, so since both species interact with benefit, it is given by a plus and plus symbol. So plus is for beneficial and minus is for they don't benefit from each other. And you have this zero symbol also. Zero symbol means they don't they are not benefited and they are not affected too. So that is zero symbol. It occurs in other types of interactions. So there is competition. Both species interacting will lose. That is, they are affected in some way or the other. So they are denoted by a minus and minus symbol. Here mutualism will lead to co-evolution. That is, so since they both species are interacting together, if one species evolves, the other species should evolve. So it is called as co-evolution. So we have here bees and flowering plants. So example, so here if bees evolves, flowering plants should also evolve. That is co-evolution. Okay, next is competition. So competition will lead to elimination of species. So here it is co-evolution, here elimination. So that is one or the other species which is not fit will get eliminated. So the next is both are physically or physiologically associated. That is, they either for example say take bees and flowering plants. They are physically associated. That is, bees will go and take nectar from the flowers of the flowering plants. So they are associated. So this competition, there need not be an association between these two. So see this example, flamingos and fishes will compete for zooplankton in lakes. So they are not associated. Flamingos and fishes, they are not associated at all, but they compete with each other. So this is the difference between mutualism and competition, and if there are many other differences also, you can also write those. So next question is, what is brood parasitism? And explain with example. So brood parasitism. So you have here the definition, where parasitic bird lays its eggs in the nest of its host and let the host incubate them. For example, we have cuckoo and then crows. So cuckoo lays the eggs in the crow's nest and the crows incubate the cuckoo's eggs. Okay, so what happened is the eggs of the parasitic bird evolved to resemble the host's egg in size and color, so that the host will not recognize the foreign eggs and will incubate them. So you see here it is the nest of bird, that is the host bird. So this is the eggs of the host and this is the egg of the parasitic bird. Okay, so it is similar in size. So it is similar in size, in color, and but it is a bit larger. So you can differentiate between the host and the parasitic egg, but it is not like so much clearly visible. So but you can see here the parasitic egg is clearly visible over here. Okay, so this is the course of evolution. So here the parasitic egg has like evolved to match the color of the host egg. This is the last question, and now we have come to the summary. So in summary, we have like the ecology has 4 levels of biological organization. From organisms or population arise. From population we have communities arising, and from communities we have biomes arising. So we have temperature, water, light and soil, which are the various abiotic factors which affect the organisms and their adaptations. And there are various population attributes like birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, age distribution, population density, which are used to study the population patterns. So the growth can be like exponential and logistical growth, and ultimately limited by carrying capacity, that is K. Okay. The interactions of organisms can be competition, predation, parasitism, mutualism, and commensalism. So these are the various types of organisms. What you do is you can make a differentiation chart for all these so that you will be able to remember during the examination. Next, this is about our institution. For admission and other information, you can contact this number. And thank you. That's it. Have a nice day.